streaming. Start screaming, 'cause you're streaming. Alrighty, everybody. Hello, everybody. Please stand by while we get our live stream going here. And as the title suggests, we are going to cover chord tones today. I'm going to get that title changed. Oh my gosh, excuse me. It's early morning here, and I don't expect anyone to show up. So either way, I'm working my screen here to change the title and to get the chat box set up in the corner. So let me get that set, and yeah. So I'm gonna minimize this, slide a bar over, and there we go. Okay, today chord tones. And what we're going to do here, oh, that was annoying. Let's get that way over there. I guess it's as small as we can make that. Okay. I'm going to show you chord tones in two different patterns and some correlations I found. So a word about chord tones in general first. I'm just getting into chord tones because as I've mastered the being able to know the right notes of the scale all over the fretboard, and now able to noodle around the whole thing, now, and I'm usually able to just use my ear to do something I find pleasing. But then there's those moments in between where you are kind of noodling and it does sound like you're noodling. So what can change that is focusing more on chord tones and understanding where they are when you need them. And so I wanted to do a little study on chord tones, and I found some cool things. And what I'm going to show you here is how they apply to the two master patterns of the fretboard. If you're new to my channel and you see me putting these chord tones in these small box style shapes, you might think, wait a minute, man, chord tones are all over the fretboard. They're not in those tiny little boxes. You don't want to learn in a box like that. But the truth is, the chord tones that you might learn in an arpeggio shape are actually occurring. You're just using multiples of the notes that are contained in these boxes, because these box shapes contain all 12 notes, so they're the master core shapes of the fretboard. You'll see them here drawn out in a minute. If what we can't do is take a tangent and show you how that shape stacks up on the fretboard. That's other lessons I have on this channel. So if you're new and you have that confusion, after the video or whenever, just take a tour of the channel and find some videos that talk about how the shapes stack up, and you'll totally get where we were coming from today. A second thing on chord tones, chord tones are really a kind of a mechanic that makes jazz tick, jazz soloing tick. Those guys are nailing chord tones. When you understand chord tones, you can cater to chord tones, and that's what you're hearing that sounds so cool about jazz, solos. When, if you want to, I think for jazz, you're going to have probably an easier time learning all that by learning the arpeggio shapes. Those will also give you chord tones. So what we're doing today is we're kind of breaking down, we're going deeper than chord tones. Because for me, I like to get into the core mechanics of things. Once I understand the core of how everything works, everything else is easy to me. I just kind of always got to know how it works. So we're going to be concentrating on 3 chord tones today, the 1, the 3, and the 5. We're going to leave the 7th out of it today. And the 7th is what you would want to know for jazz. But it's a little bit it's a little cumbersome. I'm going to actually show you something about the about 7th chords just before we start here and get into the deep information. But even before that, what I got to do here is, if you notice, the graph paper was bouncing in and out of focus here. So let me just get over, press a couple buttons here. Camera control, autofocus off, and apply, and okay, and out of there. Okay. So let's see if we can make this a little brighter. Well, how does this help? We got a light here. We can't use that light. Okay. We're just going to roll with this. First thing first about chord tones. Let's do this way up here. We got to use a different pen here. That's not working. This is the one. I'm going to use a pen today, so it's also going to be a little more sloppy than using a pencil. We can erase when you have to deal with my damaged hand here from my construction job. So let's consider that you have a do. Basically all chord tones come from do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, a major key. Let's draw a major key out here. You have 1, 2, 3, do, re, mi, and fa is always that half step away. Fa, sol, la, ti. And you get back to do, which we don't need to write here today. So there's our scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Let's consider that, let's just take a chord off the one. When you want to make a chord, for those of you who are just really in the unknown, you take the note do, you skip the next note, that becomes your 3rd, skip a note, and that's your 5th. And what do you know? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 3, and 5. And since we're, just as a side note here, since we're, this is a root, well, that's a major 3rd right there, so it's a major chord. But anyways, we don't need to know that. Let's not get on too many tangents here. What I wanted to show you is this. Very simple, very, very simple. How many notes, if I want a 3-note chord, a basic 3-note chord, was that tertiary chord? I've used 3 notes out of 7. So 3 minus 7 equals what? 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So what this means is at any given time that you're jamming over a chord that's found in a key, the chord is taking up 3 notes. So you have 3 chord tone notes to hit and 4 outside notes to hit. Now let's consider jazz, where you use 7th chords more often, and a lot of times even extended chords, which will fill in another note. You can kind of see that maybe is something easier about jazz soloing, because let's check this out. If we've got 4 notes here, that means that once we're jamming in our scale, we have a greater chance now. We have 4 chord tones and 3 non-chord tones. That means we have a greater chance of actually even landing on a chord tone. And that's where you may feel like you can really just use your ear, because the chord tones are all the next note in between the non-chord tones. Every other note is a chord tone when you have a 7th chord. And if you add an extension like the 9th and what is that, the 13th or the 11th and the 13th, as soon as you add any of those tones, you've basically got 2 non-chord tones and the rest are chord tones. So then it becomes a process of targeting, like, not only maybe a particular chord tone that you want to highlight out of that chord, but stringing the chords. The real meat and potatoes of jazz is not found over what you do over one static chord, because that's more for, long improvised jams that are not jazz, hang out over one chord. use that loosely. I'm sure there's some jazz tunes you can find that stretch out over a chord for a while. But what I mean is, most of the really spanking jazz that you hear is chords coming one after each other, and the lines that the players are soloing are connecting the chords with tones that match with each chord, or learning to bring their line into the next chord tone on the first beat. Remember, jazz is all about playing with rhythm as well. It's about chord tones and rhythm. So anyways, you can see, though, as you get more chord tones, it actually gets easier to target a chord tone. And you'll see how that works as we go on here in a minute. So in this example, though, we're only using 3 chord tones. That leaves us 4 outside notes for our solo. Now, in a longer, drawn-out rock type of jam, or like a modal backing track, per se, on YouTube that really hangs out in one mode, you've got... once I started playing some lines, focusing on, when I knew like which notes of my pattern were the chord tones and which ones weren't, I definitely heard my solos, what I played, come to life a little bit more. I'm not saying I was suddenly a master, just totally night and day change, but I heard something cool that I liked, that I was able to start harnessing tension and release in a little bit of a deeper way. Because during my solo, I was like picking a chord tone and then kind of going outside for a while, and then when I felt it, I could feel like I need a chord tone. There they were, and then I was like, okay, to vanilla, now that I was bouncing in and out in not so much of a random way, in somewhat of a meaningful way. There was like more of a meaningful sound to my solo. I thought that was cool. So see what you think with this lesson. So the master pattern, there's 2 master patterns of the fretboard that you know from this channel. This, I think, is the ultimate master pattern. As you see, it's going to encompass 8 notes, right? And we need 7 notes for our scale, so one of them is doubled up. And you know by the guitar's tuning method, where you use the 5th fret, a fret that's 5 up from the string below it, and the note is the same. So therefore, these 2 notes here are the same. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That means we have all 7 tones of our scale. One of them is doubled up right there in that pattern. And we even have most of the outside notes that we want. One of the other outside notes is here, and here are the same notes. Okay, so the other pattern that we're going to deal with today is this pattern. The jail cell. Kind of funny name for it. I mean, it's got 3 bars, like a jail. And, people can think when they start playing in patterns that, they're just in musical prison. Not necessarily the case for me, but maybe for some. Okay, so this pattern here is also the basic core pattern. Now, how can there be 2 basic core patterns? Because this pattern is made up of this pattern. Let me show you. Imagine we took this pattern and we were actually just stacked it right here. So, in other words, this square box is that square box. Here's the other wing of it, just for reference. So right there, and then up here, it's the same thing. This is a repeat from my other lessons, but I thought it would be quick enough to add in here. So you can see that all this pattern is really just a manifestation of this pattern stacked going this way. And so when you're in this jail pattern, you're really just dancing around the top the left side and the right side of this pattern. But we're going to use both patterns today because I found a neat correlation with a neat way to memorize your chord tones using both of these boxes. So let's start with this one right here. I'm going to use a fresh page. Fresh page. Fresh page. All right, that was really stupid. As you see here, we have low quality graph paper. I cannot find high quality graph paper. I think this page is a little better. Let's go to this one. Much better. Yes, we need higher quality graph paper and we need a higher quality camera. We got this under some good reviews. This is the Logitech 910E, I think, or maybe it's a 930. I don't know, but it still seems to be kind of not crisp enough in low light. So we need something new, but that's going to come when we hook up donations on our channel and or people are willing to support me on Patreon, which doesn't look likely at this point. This channel's been going on 4 years, and we're really not picking up a whole lot of new subscribers, and that's kind of a bummer. But at the same time, I don't really advertise this channel. So, let's draw a whole bunch of these together, and let's see, can I move this way? So I really just drew that. And, oh yeah, very good, very good. Now you got more? Oh yeah, okay. Very good, that's where I want that. Let's draw a couple of these together. So when you're in this pattern, if it contains all 7 notes of the scale, well then the chord tones of every single chord are in these patterns. So let's draw 6 of them today, and we're going to skip out on the diminished chord today. Although, when it comes to jazz, diminished is pretty popular, or at least used a lot. So, anyways. Oh my gosh. I gotta get my notes here. What I found by using chord tones out of this box pattern here was that there were similar shapes that see how my guitar neck went out. I just got comfortable. This is I wanted to swear, this Walmart chair I bought. Don't ever buy the cheapest Walmart chair. It really sucks. Ever since I bought it, you sit on it and the thing fucking sinks down. Nothing but shit everywhere. So back to an uncomfortable seating posture. But anyways, what I want to do is I want to show you not only how the chord tones lay out in these boxes, but how they certain shapes are similar to other shapes. And so let's do something here. So here we go. We're going to write that scale pattern down again because I want to show you something. I live in the city, and outside my window I'm hearing you live in the city, you know that you just hear sirens. I swear to God, though, this must have been like, I don't know what's going on this weekend, but all last night, now right now, it's like all I'd ever do is sit here and hear these fucking ambulances. I understand people have emergencies, and it's great if they can get there fast through traffic, but oh my God, the number of these ambulance sirens will drive you freaking crazy. So, when you, what do I want to write here? The sirens, I shouldn't have mentioned that because it took my train of thought away. Oh, this is what I want to mention. Yes. So, you have the 1, the 2, and if you watched, never mind. We're writing in lowercase here because those are minor. We'll even put a M and then a small m. Minor chord, minor chord. Why does it make a minor chord? Because the 1, look at the skip note here. There's only 2 notes in between it. From here, when we skip the note, there's 3 notes in between. So I'll write that down really quick here. We have a the root. Well, no, we're not going to write that down there because that's going to confuse everybody. Anyways, basic intervals shapes. Here, we'll write it here. Root. This is a flat 2, 2, flat 3, 3, 4, flat 5, 5. And I'm going to stop there. So I don't need to. You can figure out the rest on your own. That would be a good study thing for any beginners. And just for anyone who doesn't get major and minor, really quick, as we can here, notice that if we only travel 4 notes here, we're on the minor third. And if we travel with 3 notes in between, we have the major third. So from the 1, it's a major third. But if we start from this note and skip a note, there's only 2 notes in between. That's a minor third. So this would be the root of a minor chord. 3 is minor. 4 is major. 5 is major, but it's also considered a dominant 7th, that 5 chord. You're going to get real familiar with a 5 chord as you learn music. You've heard about it, and this is why. It's pretty important. It's like the middle of the road here. It's like the farthest away you can get from the 1. So as you travel right in your scale, you've got the greatest tension there. And music is all about going away and coming back home. Tension and release, taking people away and arriving them safely back home. Anyways, we've got the 6 here, which is minor, and you've got the 7th here, which is diminished. So we're going to put a little dim there for diminished, and we're not even going to go with that today, so we're going to put an X there. Anyways, so chord tones, and is there any correlation between like the minor and then the other groups that go together, like the 4 and the 5? And let's see. So, or perhaps the 4 and the 6 and the 5 and the 1. So right here, let's start with the. I think we'll start with the 2 chord. I thought, for a second, maybe that'll confuse people if we don't start with a 1, but let's just start with a 2 chord. In this box shape here, this is always the 1. That is always Do on your guitar. It never changes. People are amazed when they first think that. They're like, that can't be. It's stuff's all moving around. But it really doesn't. It's hard and fast. It's locked in. Unless you retune the tuning of the guitar, then you change all this. But as long as you're going to play in standard tuning, it builds a pattern. And this is the pattern. And it locks in. So if that's going to be our 1, right, then this is going to be our 2, the 2 right here, which we want to start our 2 minor chord. So let's make that green as our 1 note. And then if we have a 1 there, we also have a 1 here, incidentally. And we're going to use we're going to need a 3. So where's our 3? So there's our 1. Our 2, here's our 3, so our 3 note is going to be purple. Why don't we draw a little key there? So we're going to have 1 is green, 2 is purple, which you really can't see the color distinction that small on your screen. 1, oh, we fucked it up because I put the cap on wrong. Idiot. And the 5 is going to be red. So there, we'll know our 5 and our. All right. So, not a lot of distinction between that green and purple on my screen. But anyways. So where's our 5? Our 5, we need to skip a note. So we're going to skip that one and go to here. That is our 5. And we have our 7, which would be there, but we're not going to do 7s as we said. So there's our basic triad chord tones in there. So I kind of like to think of it as this shape here. And just know that that note is there as a cursory note. So in other words, this right here, we'll just play it somewhere random on the fretboard. Sorry. Now you've heard that lick before, right? The bottom of a pentatonic scale going. think Pink Floyd pigs 3 different ones at the end of the solo. Really just does that over and over to find an example of a song that, excuse me, really does that. And so you're accentuating the notes of the 2 chord when you do that. Green, our root note was on E in that example. Minor chord. See how that works? Anyway, so I neat that that's right at the bottom of the pentatonic scale. So this is let's write down right next to that, our 2 chord. So we're going to write down, to make yourself a note, that is the 2. And what I'm going to do is let's go with the 3. The 3 chord, what's the 3 chord do? Well, let's start with our root note in green and find the 3rd note. So we have 1, 2, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3. So that's here. Let's fill that in. And now we need our third of 3. Every chord has got a 1, a 3, and a 5, so that's the 1 of the 3rd chord. What's the 3 note? That's going to be our purpley note here. All we need to do is skip a tone. I'm going to go there. And then we need our 5, and lo and behold, where do you think our 5 is? Remember this shape? So where do you think our 5 is going to be? Well, skip a note, and what do you know? Pretty cool, huh? What you can see here is the chord tones are actually the exact same shape. And on a tangent here, once again, for those saying, yeah, but this is just one small area. You want to use chord tones like from top to bottom, all across your strings. Well, then, yeah, you learn your arpeggios to do that. But your arpeggios are dancing across multiple boxes of this. That's all an arpeggio is doing. All those notes spread out across the fretboard are just picking notes from these sectors. That's all it's doing. So you learn this shape, and if you're when I'm soloing, if I'm in an area, I know where my chord tones are, and I can even see, like, I could actually, if I learn the arpeggios, I'll be able to see how they link, through these boxes that are stacked up on the fretboard. So what I noticed, what I liked here was that, check out this shape that the 3, that's the 2, so the 3 is here. And it stands to reason that they'd be using the similar shape because they're both minor arpeggios. Minor arpeggio, minor arpeggio. So there you go. With the 2 and the 3 together, let's explore the other 4 remaining chords so we can cut the time down on this lesson. And let's see if there's any other correlation. So let's write down 2 more shapes here, and let me get a pen to do that. While I'm doing this, I think I'm going to write them all out here. To save space, it'll be a little crowded. I'm only going to skip one spot here. All right. I'm going to do this and this. We're going to draw one here. Sloppy boxes, I know. So sorry. It's morning here, and hands are just going nuts. And I'm going kind of quick. So, skip another box here. Big squares. For those who don't care. Alright, so what do we got here? We got this. We got this. We got loads of excitement here on Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Method. Just a blast. I know you're having a blast out there. Okay, so we've got the 2 and the 3 chord. Let's try the 4 chord right here. So we'll make it 4, and we'll make it. Oh, did I just fuck that up? I just made that 6, didn't I? Dum 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 dum. So yeah, I is before the right. I've always hated Roman numerals. I believe that I'm quite Roman in descendant. I might not be, but I think my parents did DNA. My sister did DNA. They both came from the island of Sicily, but the DNA was all over the place. I don't know what's going on here. But anyways, here's the 6 chord. So IV and VI. VI being minor, so we'll just kind of write that over here. Okay, anyways, I think you get it. That's right. Let's just write the 4 chord and the 6 chord just to make it fucking easy, right? Nashville numbers, much easier. Now you know why they use Nashville numbers. For those who don't need an extra level of information converting Roman numerals, while you're trying to figure out everything else. So, the 4. Let's start. I could just draw it out for you, but we'll figure it out. Instead, we need a 4. So 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to mark that down here. And I mean, you should actually also know this. This will make this much easier. Write yourself this key somewhere. I'll draw it up here, and then we'll lose it. But draw yourself this key on your homework paper when you do this yourself. Okay? This will make this much easier to understand. These are your root your root note numbers. So this is your 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. This is your 5, where your 5 chord would start. Your 6 chord, your 7. So Ionian, Dorian, Dorian. These are the corresponding modes. So those who know will get that, and I don't want to confuse anybody. So let's just mark this down so you know that this is where your 1 chord. This is Do, Re, Re. Always Mi, always Fa, always So, La, Ti, and Do. As you see, the box shape is always made of the half steps in the scale, between the 3 and the 4, and the 7 and the 1. Okay, so chord tones. Back to chord tones. We've got this one here. We've got the 1. Let's bang out the 3. Bang out the 5. Get her done. The 3 and the 5. Three, 4, and 5. I'm going to check my notes on something here. Got it. Perfect. Okay, so check out that shape. I don't know if you noticed, but this shape here is the inversion of that shape. Kind of neat how the geometry works here. That, to me, is easy to memorize. Now, I know my 4 chord is up. I know where my in notes are. Oops, sorry. Here we're starting on the B. So in this particular example, B is our 4. Oops. And the rest, these would be the not chord tones. I went inside and outside of chord tones there. And took a whole bunch of notes and gave them a little musicality kind of there, if you noticed. And that's subjective. But, more than just kind of picking random. that actually sounded more musical, and that was probably another mix of inside and outside tones. And I landed on a chord tone. So, anyways, the 6 here, this is, I'll show you kind of like there was correlation between the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 6 here. So let me show you how the 6 works. And it's basically kind of the same concept. See how the pattern here just basically moved up by 2 frets. Guess what this pattern does from the 4 to the 6? Check it out. Let me get the green. And we need our 6. So our 6 is always going to be where? Right here. Do, 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 do. I think I just messed this up. Give me 1 second here. My notes have gone bad. When I made my initial notes here, I erred slightly here, and now it does make more sense. Okay, so my bad. As you notice here, we've put our 1 on the 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is not what we wanted to do here. That should be down here. So, to avoid making a whole new page again, let's just pretend that that doesn't exist. What can I do here? Can I do this? Here. He. Doesn't exist anymore. How do you correct an error live on the graph paper method? Just fucking like that. How about that? All right. So, let's improvising real fast. now, my fine friends, let's make something based on the 5. So we have the 4 and the 5. And I had written my notes down wrong here. I got the 6 confused with the 5 for whatever reason that day. And this, what I've just corrected, actually makes more sense to me now. This is even better because the correlation is between the 2 initial minors. They have the same pattern, just moved up. The second group that has nearly an identical pattern, but just moved through the shape, is the 4 and the 5. So I'm going to write 5 chord here instead. This is the dominant 7th. So we're going to remake this into the 5 chord. If you're totally new to music, you may not have heard of the 1-4-5, but if you've ever heard of anyone explaining blues, they're telling you, oh yeah, 1-4-5, 1-4-5. And in so much of music, the 4 and the 5 are just always like together doing their thing. The 1, the 4, and the 5. The 4 and the 5 are like where you go, and then the 1 was where you come back, and the 2, the 3, and the 6 are kind of like you're in between and diminished as like a whole other, a bunch of theory about it. We're not going to go over it today. So, these have names in classical theory like dominant, subdominant, mediant, submediant, and those names are cluing you into the function of these. That's going along with what I'm saying here, like dominant, like 5. It's dominating. This is your most major chord in almost all music. It's probably going to the 5 or using the 5, and we have the 4. So you guys get 1-4-5. To not ramble on about it any further than that, to try to drive that point home. So what is the correlation between the 4 and the 5 here? Let's check it out. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's our 1. Let's find our 2 in purple, our purple 2. So we have to skip a note, and that goes here. All right, dog. And then we got our, so there's our 1, 2, 3, and we need our 4 and 5. So there's our 5. Sorry for the pause there. I really fucked up my notes there when I don't know what I was doing. I was probably pretty high. But you didn't hear that. We've got our accessory note there. Just like on the when we did the 2 chord there, whenever this note pops up, it repeats over here. So disregarding that note, but it is there if you need it, check out the shapes. It is the same thing, just like this one is the same thing moved over. This is the same arpeggio shape moved over that way. And it makes sense because they're both major chords. But now you say, well, Mark, you're saying that's major, but this is that dominant major. Where's the dominant part of this? Wouldn't that make the arpeggio different here, or the chord tones different? And the dominant nature comes from that. The 4th note of the chord. Here we're only using 3-note chords, but when you get to 4 notes, you're using the 7th. That's why they're called 7th chords. And the dominant uses that flat 7th. So that would have a flat 7th in here, but we're not doing 7th chords today. So what we get with our, what I think is called tertiary chords, tertiary 3, right? Is basically, look at that. It's just moving the same pattern. It's the same exact pattern, just in a different part of the scale. Kind of neat, huh? And neat how the correlations work between these chords that are somewhat similar. The 2 minors kind of are the same. The 2 majors are the same. Now, what about these other major and minor are left? We have the 1 chord, the major, starting around the 1, and the 6 chord, which is minor, like most. And basically, the correlation here is what we have here is we have natural major and natural minor. You've heard of natural minor because they always call it natural minor, and I'd like to call the basic major natural major because there's kind of a correlation between these two. You've seen that in other, especially my modal descriptions, you'll see how that correlates. But anyways, today, let's just get those filled out really quick and find the correlation. So where's our 1 on the 1 chord? And what we got is this. We got a 1 right here. We got a 1. And then we're going to need a 3 in there. So let's even write down here. This is the 1 chord. And this is the 6 chord. We'll just write a 6 down here. I'm sick of these Roman numerals, okay? So we're just going to write a 6 down there. Excuse me for that awful coughing break there. Morning time, and yeah. So we got a 1. We need a 3 and a 5. So let's skip our 2, and find our 3, which is right there. And our 3 is not our red note. It's a purple note. What did I put, a 2 there? Look at that. Catching my mistakes you guys were banging your heads about a few minutes ago. Like, why the hell did he put a 2 there? So 1, 3, 5. 1, 2, 2, 3. So there's our 3. Skip 1. There's our 5. All right. So we basically got this. Oh. Didn't I just mess that all up? Sorry. And that sounds musical once again. Well, that reminds me of a Rush song right there. All right, don't get me started playing Rush. But Jacob's Ladder, right? You can see part of that riff is made up of a major arpeggio. Kind of neat. The 6 is related but inverted. Let's check it out. So we need a 6. We need a 1 of 6. So where's our 6th note? Let's count for all the beginners. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just as shown here, our 6 is there. So here we go back to our 6, and we'll make that our number 1 green note for the root of a 6 chord. Your 6 is there, and you don't care. So what do we got? Our purple is next. So we need a 2. So we're going to put it there. Right? Righto. And now we need a 5. So we skip that note. And no, we don't go to that note because, yep, those are the same. So there is our 5. Let's write that down and see what we get. So you'll notice in this particular example, the shape is kind of the same, but there's an inversion going on that's flipped around, and that makes sense because it is a minor arpeggio and a major and minor, but it's apparently not built the same way as the 2 and the 3. Basically, but isn't that neat how the natural major and the natural minor kind of your chords are grouped, the arpeggio shapes line up with the kind of somewhat musical ideas. Like the 2 and the 3 are very similar. They're different chords in the scale, obviously, but they're kind of like they're not really major players in the scale. They're just great chords that are there. And then the 4 and the 5, as we talked about, are your power players of any chord progression. Your 4 and your 5, and the chord tones are the same, kind of neat. And then your 1 and your 6, your natural major and your natural minor. Those have a kind of musical connection there, and they're the polar opposites of each other. Ain't that kind of neat? So let's play them like in the same scale. So why don't we go to the key of C here? I just played that shape of notes down here at the what your guitar teacher might have taught you as the Dorian shape. The major arpeggio is going to fall here. There's the 1. And then here's going to be the 6th. Listen to the musicality. Just chord tones. And you can see how they kind of want to focus on chord tones. It perks people's ears up. They're like, hey, music. You just suggested a whole bunch of different chords instead of a whole bunch of just random notes picked out of a scale. So it takes scale playing and turns it into something a little more meaningful. And when you mix up the meaningful playing and some scale noodling, it can sound kind of cool right off the bat. Turn a beginner into someone that's much happier with their playing. And when you get happy with your playing, you are encouraged. You have a fire. That lights a fire. At least that lights a fire under my ass to progress and continue and be happy with what I'm learning with the guitar. Instead of being frustrated and up against a wall of confusion constantly with things. So, because it's about making music. So kind of cool there. Let's kind of wrap this lesson up with the other shape there. I should probably do that on a second lesson just to make this one a little bit more of a... See, when people see the time of the lesson, they see 40 minutes, they never click on it. They never click on it because they just feel like they're never going to get through it. So a lot of people will never see this lesson, and if you saw it, well, consider yourself so lucky. So pretty cool, huh? You see the correlations. copy this down in your notes, pause the screen here, make a copy of it, and then you'll have that in your notes. So we're going to move on here. And now I need 6 of these damn shapes, so let's do that really, really, really fast here. And then there's a new set of correlations that pop up with this shape, and I'll show you them here. Alright, so we're going to do that shape there. We'll do this shape here. Now, you might want to leave me a note in the comments, say, hey, draw the shapes before the lesson so you don't have to waste our time watching you draw the same shape for 10 minutes on the screen. That might be a good idea. But we didn't do that today, so bear with us as we whip out some sloppy graph ideas here. Look at that. All we need are 2 more. Are we going to be able to fit these on the screen? Let's move that way the hell up there. And I think we'll have enough to go down here. So, here I'm looking at the screen instead of my paper. Ooh, got it. Faster, faster. All right. Now we need a master key. Kind of show you so you can follow along with where I'm getting these chord tones from. Natural numbers, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Repeat 5, 6. There's your octave pattern on the guitar. 5, 6, and there's your 7. You got all your notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with a double up on the 5 and the 6. In this box, which we showed you earlier, is a repeat of the first pattern. It's like a 2-in-1 of the first pattern. But when they stack, in between where they stack, this pattern shows up. And you may also see this in the top of the Mixolydian scale if you learn that. Here's G Mixolydian from the C major scale. Sorry, let's try that again. That was that shape played on the guitar. Okay, so let's start whipping out some arpeggios here, but I got to get to a note page here. And what did I find? I found some correlations here between the excusez-moi. Now my notes here on this one were pretty vague because I wrote them down quick, so I'm going to have to do some quick what did I find? That the 2 and the 5 were similar. The 1, 6, 3, and 4 were similar. And the 7 was out on its own. Your diminished, I'll just write it down here. Here's your on our master key here. Here's your 1, your 7. And then this would be your 2 note here. Because 7, 1, 2, right? Skip the 1, go to the 2. So there's your 2. And then skip the 3 and go to the 4. And you can see that the diminished arpeggio is on its own. This is the only shape that looks like this. So it's kind of easy to remember that way. I think you'll know that that's the 2, even though we covered up. And you'll know that this is the 7, even though we are going to cover that up. So we can see that the arpeggio shape for a diminished so you could play that if that chord showed up. You'd probably want the 7 note in there too, which would be there. But anyways, start with the 1 chord here. Basically, you know what? Coloring it in is going to take a little too much time. I think you can make the colors on your own. I'm just going to write some numbers in just to speed this lesson along here. I think you guys will like that. Nobody wants a I know I got a short attention span. So 1, 3, 5, and 5. There's that shape. Let's basically invert that shape a whole bunch of times. So, and that's so this is the 1 chord. As you see, it starts on the 1, and we'll skip the 2 because that correlates more with the 5. And let's go right to the 3 chord here. So let's make a 3 chord right here. What does a 3 chord look like? 1, 2, 3. So there's our 1. There's our 3 here. Just the same. We got that octave pattern happening again. But instead of putting so you notice we've got nearly the same pattern again. But instead of having our note here, which would make it this arpeggio, we're going to put our extra note. Where's that 3? It's our 5 note is here. So we're going to do yeah, here, 5. Right? 1, 3, 5. And of course the 3 is also there. So look at that. It's kind of like an inverse of this shape. It's almost like a mirror image. Can you see how it's a mirror image between the 1 and the 3? Oh, cool. We got a train in the distance. I love trains. I live near some CSX tracks. They're actually like a mile away. I think it's about a half mile away from my house, and I hear them loud and clear. I can't imagine there's houses next to those tracks, how loud that is for them. But anyways, not the scope of this lesson. So let's carry on here. Skip the 2. Let's go to the 3. What does a 3 look like? Oh, we did the 3, so let's go to a 4. What does a 4 look like? 4 looks like this. Let's start out on the... Now my notes here, once again, looks like something may have gotten screwed up here. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Okay, so now we're going to use that as our 1, our 4. Where's our 4? 4 is there, right? So 4 is 1. Skip that one. There's our 3. Our 3 note is there. So that's our 6 or 7. So that's got to be our the next note in our scale, but that's not what we wrote down here. So hold on a second here while I clarify my notes here. First of all, let's put our 3 in the octave position here. So we got, once again, kind of similar shape but inverted, like we've built an inverted part of this one. So where's that one final note? So our 1, our 3, our 5. So let's see, 1. There's basically the 4, the 5, 6, 7. Skip that and go to the 1 for our 5. Yeah. And our notes were correct. So something was just giving me a brain fart there, but 5, and then you would have your 6, we would have our 7th note would be there, and then a root, and then skip that. But whatever. It all gets confusing because, we list this for ease of finding the notes. We list this as its basic, starting from the 1, the root, the Ionian. This is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Do, right? So, but when you start naming chord tones out, the 1 is the 1 of the 4 chords, so that now becomes the 1, and then the numbers kind of can be confusing to a beginner how all that works. But just remember, what we're doing is when we want a 4 chord, the root becomes this. The 4 is the root for the 4 chord, so we label that as 1. We want a 1, a 3, and a 5. Skip notes. So, and as you can see, once again, we got the little wall of notes and then the octave pattern. Wall of notes and that, like that. It's basically the inverted shape. You can just see for yourself how this is kind of just, they're all the same thing, just inverted. So the 1, the 3, and the 4 share this kind of invertedness. And what about the 6? So does it stand to reason that the 6 uses that? Let's check it out. So here's our 6. That's going to be our 1, right? So we're going to make our 1. So this is going to be our 3. Yeah, because we skip our 7. That brings us to the 1. And then we skip that note and it brings us to the 5. So we have 1, 3, 5. Now that doesn't look too much like an inverted shape here, but 1 and 1 is our octave. Now, all of a sudden, look at that. We've got basically the 4, and what is this one? What did we say this one was? The 6. So 1 and the 3 are inverted of each other. The 4 and the 6 are kind of inverted. It's like a mirror image. Can you see how that works? The intervals aren't the same. I think the other pattern just made it a little easier, but I just thought it was cool that this pattern too also had these weird correlations of mirror image, similar image in their arpeggios. But I think this is a little bit more cumbersome to learn. A little bit too much information for you to draw on quickly. This is the real deal with my method here. It's about taking big information and turning it into bits, accessible bits. I know to do that because it's worked in other professions too. And I'm sure that anyone who has a degree in teaching people things will tell you, I think it's actually got a term. It's called chunking. You got to chunk information. Your brain likes little digits, much like your computer does everything on a simple 1 or a 0, just bits. The basic core of all this processing power is juggling bits. You can move bits quick, so you got to turn this information into tiny bits. These are a little bit of bigger bits. All these big shapes. And the other way turns it into a little bit more of a bit accessible thing. Anyways, you like how I always do that? Anyways, let's go for the 2 and the, what else is there? The 2 and the 5 chord, right? I think there's a much stronger correlation in music, but like on the other pattern where we showed like the 2 and the 3 were together, and then the natural minor and natural major were together. This is a little bit more unusual, but however, you have heard of 2-5-1, so we'll see how the 2 and the 5 kind of use their own little shape here that inverts. Let's check it out. So we've got the let's do the 2 right here. So where's our 2? 2 starts right there. So here's our 1. Skip 1. There should be our 3. Skip 1 should be our 5. Pretty easy. And then there's the octave pattern. Neat thing is these all have 4 available. Every one of them has 4. On the other version, some had 4. Everyone here has a doubled up interval. On the other version that we did first, only how many? Only 2 or 3 had. How many had 4? 1, 2. Only 2 of them had 4 notes. The rest were just standard 3 notes available. All of these have a doubled up arpeggio. I'm sorry, a doubled up interval. So like the 5 is doubled here, the 3rd note is doubled on this one, the 1 note is doubled, and you can see the rest. Okay, so the 5, what does the 5 look like? You might have already figured that out if you've gone racing ahead here, which I think is really cool. And we got the 1, skip 1 for 2, and then we'll have we need our 3rd, so our 3rd is going to be where? Well, if that's our 1, isn't that going to be our 3? Hold on a second here. 1. Oh, no. 1. See, there's like, okay, so 5, 6, 7. All right, so we need a 5. We're going to skip the 6, and we're going to go for 7. So there's our 1 and our 3. There's our 1. Here's our 3. Now we need our 5. So 7. We need 7. Skip the 1 and nail the 2. So there is our 5. Now, on top of that, where's our doubled up interval? Right there. And check it out. This shape is not really an inverse of these, but these two are almost like a mirror image of each other. Just basically flip this one upside down, and you got that one. Kind of neat, huh? The 2 and the 5 are similar to each other. And you've heard of the popularity in jazz of a 2-5-1, right? So you would basically kind of be needed a 2, a 5, and a 1. Typical jazz. Like what? What's that? 2, minor 2, 5. Well, that brings me to the end of the lesson here. That's what I wanted to show you today. The fun things you can find by graphing ideas out and find out correlations and neat things. Can you master chord tone soloing with this method? Some of you might. I have dabbled with trying to use this and think quickly during some solos, and it's not bad. I tend to favor this method using these shapes a little more. So see what you think. I thank you for watching. We're going to call it quits today because here at 816 we've got to do our other things today, like work on cars. Yeah, because cars and guitars always go together, right? So I appreciate that anyone who has watched this today, and yeah, we'll catch you next time. Leave any comments or questions down below. I would appreciate it if anyone out there would say, "Hey, dude, make more videos faster. Come on, we need more. Tell me you guys need more because I need incentive to do this." The channel's kind of petering out at 700 subscribers, and I don't get any compensation for doing this. I need to set up a donation button because I think that's where it would be at. I don't think this is going to really pop up any Patreon supporters. As you can see, it's sounding like I'm getting a little depressed about it all, and due to other factors in my life, right today is a year anniversary of losing one of my closest friends to a horrible disease, but we won't go there today. But just I'm saying that I just lately I've noticed I sometimes I'm thinking about making a lesson. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go live today, and I get home, I look at my computer, and all I do is look at it, and I can't get myself to go online, and I believe that's just simply lack of motivation, which is kind of caused by being just kind of put off. I don't want to say depressed, but it's just kind of right, a little lethargic lately. So due to a ton of factors, but we all got a life and we all got ups and downs. So don't worry about me. Take care of yourselves out there. Be happy. Smile a lot. Tell someone you love them today. As a matter of fact, that would be my most important message to you today. And maybe I'll even say this. I'll kind of go off on a weird tangent here. But when it comes to people that get stricken with, especially when it's a loved one, that gets stricken with some kind of a terminal illness, it gets awkward because you don't want them to think, and they probably don't even want to think about their illness. They want to live their life, all their last days, as if they're alive. That's all they want to think about. It can become very awkward to talk with them about things, and in that regard, you may just not know what to say, so you don't say anything. And that's the worst thing you can do. Talk to those people and tell them how much you love them. Do it today. If that's someone out there that is facing this challenge, do it, because you might find out that suddenly, all at once, you don't have the chance to say that anymore, and you might live with regrets that you feel like you didn't say it enough. So, somber, sad. Oh, why not leave this with a totally tear-jerking, sad talk, right? So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this lesson today and you had a great time of learning some new things about chord tones and hearing how they can change up your sound of solos. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Throw me some ideas that you want to learn about, and maybe we'll graph them out. Have a great day. It was my pleasure doing this. Have a great day.